On Palm Sunday, Jesus rides into Jerusalem to shouts of "Save us now." In the minds of the men and women in the crowd, Jesus was the warrior king they had been waiting their entire lives for. They had lived under the tyranny of Caesar and Rome long enough, and now their champion was here. Imagine their surprise to see that Jesus wasn't riding a war horse. Jesus wasn't carrying a weapon of any kind, and Jesus, as Luke's gospel says, was weeping bitterly over the city of Jerusalem. The expectation of the crowd was for this warrior king to ride into town amidst this triumphal procession and march directly to the palace of the Roman governor Pilate. And right then and there, the long-awaited liberation movement would have begun, bringing peace to the Israelites and ushering in a new kingdom. But that's not what happened. You see, Jesus made a beeline not to the governor's palace, but to the temple. And to be fair, the scene that takes place there is one that likely would raise the eyebrows of any onlooker. Once at the temple, Jesus enters the court of the Gentiles, this place that was meant for the nations to gather in order to observe the goodness of the one true God. And you see, this is completely in line with what we know about the story of God. God has always blessed a people to be a blessing to the world in order to put on display, if you will, his goodness and mercy. And here in the court of the Gentiles, a place that was meant to provide this picture of a blessed people who've been loved and cared for by a gracious and merciful God, well, things had become cluttered with buying and selling and trading and corruption. In the place where it was supposed to be clear for strangers and outsiders to see the difference that God makes in their lives, there was really no distinguishable difference from this place into the outside world. The temple, the place where the presence of God dwells, had become a place that ceased to offer a tangible picture of hope for the world. Jesus goes and he brings purity to the temple by turning over tables and by stopping all the activity that's going on in the temple courts. Can you imagine witnessing these events? It's unsettling to us, to be sure. An angry and indignant Jesus. On this Holy Monday, let's take time to reflect on who Jesus is and what we see him doing in this passion. In this passage, let's truly see that the passion of Jesus is fueled by this white-hot desire to bring the message of good news to every tribe, every tongue, and every nation. Jesus, if we're honest, may not be the king that we expected, but he most certainly is the king that we most desperately need. He's the king that comes to us as the better temple, the very living presence of God in flesh, who walks among us and at great cost to himself shows the watching world the deep, deep love of the Father as he is ushering in a new kind of kingdom.